Happy Friday, y'all. Here are this week's biggest headlines. Depressed. That's the word for Wisconsin right now. COVID-19 has closed many small businesses forever. Somewhere between 30 and 40% of the country is struggling to pay their rent or mortgage. Most schools are opening digitally, but it's not entirely clear how. And now we learn that college sports are not coming back anytime soon. The Big Ten Conference announced all fall sports are pushed back to the spring, and depending on how America handles COVID, they might not be played at all this academic year. That raises a lot of questions for the athletes, like will they get another year of eligibility? Are some players going to put off being drafted? Will they instead rush to be drafted and get paid? But some of the biggest questions surround money. Sports is a lucrative business, and it funds many other things at public universities. Fans buy tickets and merchandise, wealthy donors write checks for all kinds of things, but the biggest cut of the pie comes from the gigantic TV contracts that the NCAA and conferences sign with corporations. To give you an idea of how much money we're talking about, this article from Forbes last year says the University of Wisconsin generated $86 million in revenue over the 2015, 16, and 17 seasons, which amounted to $48 million in profit after expenses. That's just their football program, by the way. The Badgers were also only number 23 on that list. The highest grossing team was Texas A&M with almost $150 million in the same amount of time. So no football means all that money disappears for the university. And there's another pile of money that disappears for local businesses. Anyone who's ever been in Madison on game day and has seen the endless mobs of people tailgating or waiting in line to get food or booze knows that's a lot of money. Welcome to Wisconsin, where we can't have nice things because of COVID. #depressed. Endless is how I would describe the coronavirus pandemic, especially if we're talking about the US. There are tons of people who don't believe in masks or social distancing. We're rushing to reopen public schools without any serious commitment from the federal government about safety protocols or equipment. Other countries are stabilizing or have stabilized. New Zealand went more than 100 days without any new cases of COVID-19. They did just learn about 4 or 5 new ones, to be fair, but since June 29th, America has been cranking out 40 to 60,000 new cases every day. Germany's unemployment rate is between 5 and 6%. Ours, the Department of Labor says it's at about 10% and dropping, which is still extremely high, but some experts say the real unemployment rate is actually closer to 20%. And both of these estimates come out before the expiration of the emergency unemployment benefits, which terminate this week. That's the $600 stipend folks were getting. Congress did not renew or replace that, but Donald Trump gave a little bit back. More on that later. And the worst part of all these money troubles is that Congress has done so little for the American people. They were in the middle of arguing over the HEALS Act this week, and suddenly decided, enough is enough, we're done. Mitch McConnell let the Senate leave for its summer recess. Yeah, in May, about 1/3 of the country was facing food insecurity, food banks and hospitals are getting slammed right now, and Congress turned off the lights and left a note on the door that says, "Be back September 8th. Classy. Panicking best describes the Republicans. In a move of pure desperation, Donald Trump signed a flurry of executive orders aimed at COVID-19 relief in order to make up some ground on Joe Biden, who is somehow pulling ahead by as much as 10 points. I'm going to give credit where credit is due quick. There were actually a couple of good things that happened. They also had some bad, but let's be fair. This isn't CNN or MSNBC. So first, Trump extended the deferment for federal student loans. Oh my God, yes. That was going to expire on September 30th. And now the delay on payments and interest for student debt is extended to December 31st. As someone who has a truckload of student debt, that's incredible. But seriously, could someone just wipe this out already, or at least give us some better interest rates? Trump also diverted $44 billion from FEMA to pay for $300 per week in unemployment benefits over the next 5 weeks, which is huge because the $600 benefits expired this week and Congress didn't renew or replace them with anything because they were upset that poor people almost had enough money to live on. So that helps. Thank you. But that's it for the good news. Now the bad and slightly unethical news. Many point out that this $44 billion came from FEMA, which is supposed to help with disaster relief, and we're at the start of hurricane season. There's also an open question as to whether or not Trump can be sued for doing this, since he went around Congress and they control the money. Also, in the many executive orders Trump signed, there are no direct cash payments or a moratorium on evictions, which is a huge problem when about 40% of the country is having trouble paying their rent or mortgage. Now, some were reporting he did call for that, but what he actually did was insert a line that says the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, should, quote, consider stopping evictions. This is the classic politician move of pretend to do good or make a motion that someone else should do good and then take credit for it. Don't be fooled. He actually did it twice. Trump also called for the, quote, option to delay payroll tax payments, but without any new law from Congress, those will still have to be paid. Now, payroll taxes are the taxes paid on the wages or salaries of workers, the money you make, which has obviously been decimated this year by the pandemic. For most people, these are listed as FICA and MedFICA on pay stubs, and they fund programs like Social Security and Medicare, which elected Republicans have been trying to destroy for years. Trump is also messing with funding for the United States Postal Service. That's a whole big thing. Go read our breakdown for more information. Just know that once again, Republicans are screaming about voter fraud without providing any evidence to back it up. This also comes after Trump and his wife applied for mail-in absentee ballots in Florida. Yeah, okay. Both Trump and McConnell are anxious about losing power this year, and because of their cowardice and insecurity, the American people are suffering. Speaking of cowardly insecurity, let's talk about the Democrats. You know, with COVID rampaging here and around the world and this big election coming up, people are anxious and pissed off, but you'd never know it by watching or following any of the Democratic propaganda outlets. They're all too busy celebrating. Joe Biden finally announced his running mate. It's Kamala Harris, and the internet exploded. Liberals everywhere praised the brilliant selection. Phrases like hashtag Biden-Harris 2020 landslide were trending on Twitter, and all was right with the world. It was perfect. Except it's not. Full disclosure, we did a massive breakdown of the Biden-Harris ticket, its flaws, and what the party must do before November to defeat Trump. It should be on the screen now, and it'll be in the description below. Go check it out. What I will say is that this is shaping up to be a legit repeat of the 2016 election. Yet again, we have two extremely flawed candidates running with high unfavorable ratings for the same two political parties that have somehow outdone themselves and given even more money to the top 1%. American families are hurting more than ever, and it's all being propped up by a mainstream media that has zero interest in being accurate or adversarial. Democrats and the liberals who support them need to wake up. Trump can absolutely win again. There is a reason hundreds of delegates and voters plan to protest the current Biden-Harris platform at the Democratic Convention in Milwaukee next week. Because the platform sucks. It's just more of the same neoliberal playbook. A neoliberal playbook which lost them thousands of seats at every level of government over the past decade. The House, which they narrowly retook, the Senate, the White House, the Supreme Court, lower courts all over the country, state governorships, and seats in legislatures everywhere. It's a playbook which says we don't need Medicare for all, which says the environment can wait until 2030 or 2050, which says we don't need Glass-Steagall back or to address Citizens United. It says the status quo is fine, but America is not fine. I'll leave you with this parting thought. Statistics guru Nate Silver and 538 released the latest election prediction, and it's estimated a more than 70% chance of Biden winning. Here's another graphic, also from 538, but it was released before the 2016 election. They are almost identical. Democrats and the rest of the hashtag resistance group haven't learned a damn thing these last few years. Lobby the DNC and your congressperson. Tell them all to fight for a more progressive platform. We can't make the same mistakes again, and I promise you, no one on the progressive left wants to say, "We told you so," for another 4 years. Remember, new content on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. If you like the video, make sure to click like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, or head over to forwardnews.substack.com for our full stories. Happy Friday, y'all.